Hello, this is lesson 3-6, number 6. We're going to start with a do now. So take a look at the diagram. It says look for a growing pattern. Describe the pattern you see. So if the pattern continues growing in the same way, how many tiles of each color will be in the 4th diagram, 5th diagram, 10th diagram? And then on the bottom, it wants to know how many of each color will be in the nth diagram. So it's looking for the rule. So we can determine any number in our sequence just by using that rule. So let's start with looking at yellow. In the first diagram, there's 1 square. In the second diagram, there's 4 squares. And in the third diagram, there's 9 squares. So it looks like we're going to continue with that pattern of squares. So this is a 3 by 3 for the third diagram. This was a 2 by 2, and this was a 1. We can call it a 1 by 1 for the first diagram. So for the fourth diagram, we would assume the yellow would be a 4 by 4, which would equal 16. For the fifth diagram, we assume the yellow would be a 5 by 5, which is 25. And for the 10th diagram, 10 by 10, which would be 100. Take a look at the blue. In the first diagram, there's 3. In the second diagram, there are, it looks like 2 3s, so 6. In the third diagram, we have 3 3s, so 9. So in the fourth diagram, we would have 4 3s. And in the fifth diagram, we would have 5 3s. What about in the 10th diagram? And well, there would be 10 3s. Just 30. And the last one is red. In the first diagram, there's 1 red square. In the second diagram, there's 2 red squares. In the third diagram, there's 3 red squares. So it looks like the number of red squares is the same as the number diagram. So in the fourth diagram, there should be 4. In the fifth diagram, there should be 5. And in the 10th diagram, there should be 10. Now at the bottom, I want you to see if you can come up with a rule that would help us figure out the nth diagram or any number we wanted to in the sequence. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video now and see if you can come up with a rule. Okay, well, if we look back up at what we wrote, the first one was a cube, or a square. So it looks like that would be 2 squared. And this one was 1 squared. This one will be 3 squared. So this, I notice, is the same as the number diagram, which we're going to call n. So that would be n, or whatever number diagram, squared. For the blue, it's in groups of 3. So for the first diagram, it was 1 group of 3. For the second diagram, it was 2 groups of 3. So we're going to take the number 3 and multiply it by the diagram. And the last one is equal to the diagram number. So in the first diagram, there was 1. In the second diagram, there was 2. So we would just say that the number of red squares is equal to n. All right, next we're going to look at our graphs. So find this page. We're going to examine 6 cards describing different situations, and we're going to look at 6 graphs. So these are our graphs. There are 6. We're going to determine which situation each is, and then at the bottom we're going to answer questions on the bottom 3. Okay, so let's take a look at our situations. So situation A, Lynn's dad bought a tablet. He pays the same amount each month for a subscription to a movie streaming service. The graph represents how much money he spent, Y, for the tablet and X months of the service. The slope of the line is 10. So let's look back at our graphs and let's see if we can figure out which graph represents that situation. So let's look at each one. Okay, so our first graph starts down here at 0, 0 at the origin, and then it goes up. Let's find a perfect point. Looks like there's a perfect point right here at 20 and 5. I don't see any before that point. So I'm going to look at how much it went up. Okay, that went up from 0 to 20. So my vertical change, or my numerator, is 20. And then we're going to look at how much it went over. Went over from 0 to 5. So my horizontal change, or my denominator, is 5. So that is the rate of change for that graph, or the slope. We can simplify that. 20 over 5 would equal 4. So the slope for that line is 4. Okay, not quite what we're looking for. We're looking for a slope of 10. So let's keep going. Let's go down to the next one. All right, so let's find a perfect point here. Looks like 2 and 60. 2 and 60 would be a perfect point. And this graph starts at 40. So if I look at my vertical change, my numerator went from 40 to 60. So my numerator would be 20, change in 20. And then my horizontal change went from 0 to 2. So my denominator will be 2. So 20 divided by 2 equals 10. Okay, so that one has a slope of 10. Keep going and see if there's any more. Okay, graph 3. Looking for a perfect point. Okay, I see one at, looks like 70 and 2. So over 2, up right here. That will be 270. So starting at my original point, what is my vertical change, my numerator? How much did it go up? Well, it went up from 40 to 70, so that is a change in 30. Okay, 40 to 70 is 30. And then we went on my horizontal change, we went from 0 over here to 2. So my denominator would be 2. So 30 over 2 would give me 15. So that slope is 15. Okay, number 5 starts here at the origin, and my first perfect point will be right here. So it went up by just 1, and it went over by 4. So my slope for that one would be 1/4. Okay, graph number 4. I see a perfect point at 1 and 40. And we started at the origin. So it went up from 0 to 40. So my vertical change, or my numerator, would be 40. And then it went over 1. You have to look at the axis to see the labels because it's 2 graph squares, but it represents just 1 number. So my denominator would be 1. So 40 over 1 equals 40. and I'll let you do the last one. So let's look at my situation again. Lynn's dad bought a tablet. He pays the same amount each month. If you are paying the same amount each month, that is a constant rate of change. Constant. And how much is it going to go up each month? Well, our rate of change is 10. So our K, or constant, is 10. Okay, let's look back at our graph. We're looking for one with a slope or rate of change of 10, which is going to be graph 2. Okay, so that situation was A. So we're going to circle A down here on the bottom. And it wants to know what the slope is. Well, the slope is 10. So right here it says y increases by blank as x increases by blank. That is your rate of change that we're looking for. And we already know that y went up by 20 as x went over by 2. So as y increases by 20, x increased by 2. And that was simplified to give us 10. What does our slope represent? What is happening with this 10? Well, each month he has to pay $10. And that's why your total cost that you've paid, it goes up by 10 each month. So that is your monthly tablet plan. So the slope represents $10 each month for tablet plan. Where does the line cross the vertical y-axis? What does this point tell you about the situation? Well, if we look at where our graph crosses, the y-axis, it's right here at this point. And that point was 40. So what does the 40 represent in this situation? We know it's $40 because this is total money spent. So each month we pay an extra $10, but it looks like we started at 40. And that's because that's what the tablet cost. So in this situation, it's the price of the tablet. That's where we began counting how much money we're spending. Okay, what you guys need to do is finish finding the slope of that last graph, determine which situation goes with each graph, and then answer this and this for these two graphs. Okay, you can do that when you're okay. Feel free to pause the video on the situations so you can determine which is which on your paper. And when you are finished, unpause it and we will continue. Here we go. All right, we're gonna look at 6.3 summer reading. Lynn has a summer reading assignment. After reading the first 30 pages of a book, she plans to read 40 pages each day until she finishes. Lynn makes a graph to track how many total pages she'll read over the next few days. It's displayed on the right. After day 1, Lynn reached page 70, which matched the point 1,70 she made on her graph. After day 4, Lynn reaches page 190, which does not match the point 4,160 she made on her graph. Lynn is not sure what went wrong, since she knows she followed her 40 minutes per day reading plan. So here's our graph. You can see that Lynn graphed her reading plan of 40 pages each day. 40 pages each day. And where did she start? Where did she begin? It says that she read 30 pages first and then 40 pages each day. So number 1 down here says, let's sketch the line that shows what Lynn's original plan was on the graph provided to see if it's the same as what Lynn graphed. So let's try and figure out where the mistake is. So looking back, it says Lynn has a summer reading assignment. After reading the first 30 pages, she plans to read 40 pages each day. So she's not starting her 40 pages until after she's read the first 30. So it's going to go up by 40. That's our rate of change. Changes by 40 pages each day. And where are we going to begin? We're going to begin at 30. So on day 0, she's at page 30. So halfway in between 20 and 40, right there on that y-axis. And then it changes by 40 each day. So on the first day, she will have 40 pages more. So if you're at 30 and you do 40 pages more, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, and day 1. Okay, that's where she was supposed to be, so that's good. And now we're going to go up by another 40 pages. So right now we're at 70, so we're going to go up 40. So 70 plus 40 is 80, 90, 100, 110, and that's where she will be on day 2. Okay, that is not on the line. Let's do it again. Gonna go up another 40 pages. So from 110, we're gonna go up to 120, 130, 140, 150, and that's where she'll be for day 3. And I can't fit another 40 pages to be off my graph, so I'm gonna leave it there. So let's connect that line. Okay. Go ahead and graph the line. Take a look at these two. Are they the same? Well, that's obvious that they are not. No. What is one part that's different? What do you notice about the line that I just graphed versus the line that was already on there? Let me erase some of these dots for you. Well, I notice a couple of things. I think the one that sticks out the most to me is the starting point. The line I graphed started at 30, and the line she graphed started at 40. Okay, so one part that is different is where the lines start. Where the lines start. One starts at 30, and then one starts at 40. Number 3 says, what is the vertical intercept? Well, of the graph I did, the vertical intercept is where it crosses my vertical axis. So where do the line and the y-axis intersect? Mine intersects right there at 30. What does the vertical intercept mean in this situation? What was 30? The number of pages she read a day? No, that was 40. 30 is what page she started at. What page she started at. What says she? Okay, how do the vertical intercepts of the two lines compare? Well, one of them, they're not the same. One is 30 and one is 40. 1 is correct. What does the slope mean in this situation? What was our slope, or our rate of change? How much did it change by? Our slope, or our rate of change, is 40. So the slope means what? How many pages she read each day. It's how much it changes each day. Pages read each day. And number 7, how do the slopes of the two lines compare? Well, we'll have to go back and take a look at the Lynn graph, because we haven't looked at the slope of that one. I do know it's not the same as ours, though. So Lynn's graph has 2 points on there. Let's look at that one, and let's look at where it started. It's actually got 3. All right, so it started at 40, and it changed, vertical change, numerator, up to 70. So to go from 40 to 70, we changed by 30. So that's our numerator. And our horizontal change from day 0 to day 1 is 1. So our slope of Lynn's line is 30, which would be 30 pages per day. But that's not what she's doing. She's reading 40 pages per day. So that's another place where Lynn messed up, is she does not have the correct slope. Okay, how do the slopes of the two lines compare? 1 is 30. That is not correct. And the other is 40, which is the correct answer because she's reading 40 pages per day. Okay, the last thing you guys are going to do is the blue paper. Put your name on it, please. You're gonna do this for me and then turn it in. So it says, Jada's grandparents started a savings account for her in 2010. The table shows the amount of money that is in the account each year. Graph the relationship with the year on the x-axis and the amount of dollars on the y-axis. So I set up some tick marks on the graphs for you. You need to label it with words, and you need to put the numbers on it, and then you need to graph those 4 points. There are 2 questions on the bottom for you to answer. This needs to be complete and turned in. If you have any questions, come and see me. Thank you.